Um, Sorry about the time delay here. Not sure what's going on with the streaming service, but it ain't working great right now. That being said, though, let's get into her. So, yesterday we had, a pretty interesting end to the Globex session, with the simple fact that obviously CPI was a huge, not very good, huge disaster, really. But they just continued to ignore that. Early in the session, you started trending up into what was our all-time high, where really just a complete lack of new buyers entered into the market, and suddenly you have to have a liquidation break, right? You have no choice but to liquidate. The buyers up here have to sell out, and that's what you get, and you get the big pullback, right? So one thing of interest is, most of this significant move that was made yesterday was made in a single period. So the selling really just happened in H period. And after H period, there was a real lack of interest in the sell side. You can clearly tell when you're looking at the profile that, there was no continuation really for the next 2.5 hours. It was more just back and forth type balance, which slowly kind of creeped its way down. Now, one thing that I thought was interesting was, one, you never got Globex's low, and two, you never stopped one time framing on the day time frame. So although you did move value to overlapping lower, you were unable to, effectively stop the daily one time framing, even with that kind of a significant liquidation break. So coming into today, we pulled ES down towards that 48 level, which I would consider to be the strongest support up in this area. And we've clearly found a buyer from that point. Now we have PPI today, which I'm sure is going to increase as well. What that impact has on the market, I guess time will tell, as it's going to come out here, 2 hours or so. But as it stands right now, when I'm watching this, there's still buyers in the market. They're still willing to buy the all-time highs and buy towards the all-time highs in the ES. As long as 43.48, 43.44 continues to hold, I don't see any reason to be short the market, unless you get up towards, again, your all-time high. I would think the stronger area and stronger odds play would be to look to position yourself long if that level holds, if that 48, 44 level holds. Now, if that gives way, then you have the 32.30 area. But as it stands right now, kind of where we're trading, I think, for me personally, I think any move back towards Globex's low, towards that 48, is most likely a buyable pullback, and to see if we continue with the buy the dip type activity. Looking over here at R2Y, R2Y is an interesting market to me because I think it's actually trading fairly naturally and is as far as the process goes. Now, what would change that for me, I think, is if we really make a move towards that 2200 number, 2210, 2202, which is to me a significant support on the downside. That would be, if we sweep that would be really the only thing that would change my mind. Otherwise, I think R2I is a viable market. I think it's a market where you can start to look to get long for more of a swing type activity. And the reason for that is simply how it traded on the day time frame. Remember, we've talked about this liquidation. We talked about this natural move. This latest pullback is really just a retest of the excess that was put in, right? It's a natural retest of the excess. I know we're used to just seeing these types of V-shaped recoveries like this time here, straight down, straight up type activity. But this is a more, casual, pull it back down, push back up, then pull back, and see if the buyer is going to move up and really aggressively try and push this market higher. This would be, to me, a more natural move. Now, like I said, I would be a buyer anywhere towards, 2210, 2202. And stay more on the buy side until that level itself gives way. If that level gives way, well then, maybe you can start looking at the short side. But for me personally, I ain't shorting any market below the 21-day and below the 50. Not in the current, not in the current market climate where, people can't buy the dip fast enough. It's like a sickness right now. So there's no point to fight the Momo, not yet at least, and position ourselves against them, not yet. Might as well let them get, let them make money and we'll make money along with them until it changes. So over on NQ, one thing of interest on NQ is still the daytime frame, right? We've talked about, NQ's lack of enthusiasm above this upper trend line. We're continuing to see it each and every time they try and push away, they're getting smacked back down. So that's kind of what I'm still looking for on NQ. I think NQ could be tradable today. I think it will depend on how this number affects the market itself. One thing that I do find interesting about NQ is NQ seems to kind of be off in its own world right now. You know what I mean? Yesterday, YM, ES, R2I were all kind of in sync. They were all kind of, early on, they were moving a little bit lower or balancing, while NQ was just going absolute haywire. So that's something I'm kind of paying attention to now. NQ was the biggest tell yesterday as far as, a real lack of interest in the sell-off, a real lack of interest after this H period liquidation. It's really the one that just, it pretty much held its open. It looked below it and was like, not today. Found a very mechanical level to buy from yesterday's point of control. And from there, they really just balanced out the remainder of the day. So I think NQ is the biggest tell that way. Now, we're continuing to see this type of activity in NQ where we get this balance and then, this late rip into our open, right? It's really, plagued NQ for the last 3 Globex sessions where they try and push a lower, balance, rip it higher, balance, try and push a lower, rip it higher, balance, push a lower, rip it higher. It's just a continual thing. Now, do we get the same reaction that we got yesterday in W period? I don't doubt it. I really don't. I won't position myself for it, I don't think. And as long as we, if we sit up here and build something very similar to this, my expectations are PPI is not going to be very nice. And there is a good chance of a similar type aggressive liquidation move. The problem with positioning yourselves for such a move, and I did this yesterday, and it was a high risk play, obviously high risk, high reward. But the problem with that is this moves so quickly. If it moves against you, you're in a bad spot very, very fast. So it's not a play I would recommend to anybody unless you've pre-positioned yourself or you have a pretty strong stop in mind. So for me, I think ES most likely will be the most tradable as far as daytime trading goes. I think R2I is the best trading market right now still, and I think we have better options with R2I for positioning. So coming into today, that's kind of what I'll be watching. We will see, if ES is going to continue, PPI is going to have an impact at some point, I believe. And if it doesn't, I'll be shocked. But if it doesn't, that's okay still, because we have pretty strong levels to, monitor and look at, for the day itself. So that being said, thanks for jumping on. Hopefully I can get the restream thing figured out here. So I'm not having the same kind of issues as far as, the times not lining up and not being able to get in. So have yourself a great trading day, and we'll check you guys again tomorrow.